The Thing Within the Timberline, Part 3. By the time I left the motel, the black branching pattern had crept across half my chest and up the side of my neck. It didn't hurt. It pulled, like something beneath the skin was growing towards something else. I drove for hours, on anywhere but west, anywhere away from Montana. But no matter which way the highway curved, the same sensation sat heavy on my sternum. Something was waiting for me, something patient. As dust settled, my reflection in the rearview mirror flickered. For a moment I saw antlers behind me, twisted, organic, growing. I slammed the brakes, my heart hammering, and the road ahead blurred into shadows. My skin felt tight and my vision swam. The mark was doing something to me, changing me. I got back on the road, not knowing where else to go. But the truth was forming in my mind. Running wasn't keeping it away. Running was somehow leading me toward it. At around midnight, I pulled into a gas station outside Browning. The attendant froze when he saw me, not in fear, but in recognition. He stared at the mark creeping up my neck like he'd seen it before. After a few seconds, he said quietly, "They always come back." I asked him what he meant. He just shook his head. While I was on my way out, he leaned close and whispered, "If it calls you, don't fight it in the dark." Something in his tone told me this was not his first encounter with someone like me. I got back in the truck. My hands shook on the steering wheel. My chest burned. The mark pulsed like a heartbeat. Tears ran down my cheeks, and before I knew it, I was driving west, toward the Bob Marshall wilderness, not by choice, by compulsion, by tether. The entity wasn't tracking me anymore. It was calling me home. I reached the trailhead around 3 a.m. I saw no moon. I felt no wind, only darkness, oppressive darkness. The moment I stepped out of the truck, the forest exhaled. Not metaphorically, I heard it. It was a long, low breath, stirring only the path ahead, as if the trees had been holding themselves stiff, waiting for me. The mark on my chest glowed faintly under the truck lights, a dull, pulsing amber like resin bleeding through bark. I stepped into the tree line. My flashlight dimmed instantly. By the second switchback, it died completely. And then, the knocking began. Knock, knock, knock. Soft, measured. Nearer each time. My breath iced. The forest was alive around me, leaning inward, closing the distance. I should have run, but the mark kept pulling me deeper. I didn't know then that there was still one way out, a terrible way. By the time I reached the old meadow, I smelled it. Wet bark, cold rot, ancient soil disturbed for the first time in decades. The collapsed cabin sat half sunk into the earth, but now the surrounding trees angled toward it unnaturally, as if bowing. And standing at the far end of the meadow, it waited, no flicker, no silhouette. It was fully present. Antlers spiraling outward like twisted constellations, limbs long and wooden, jointed like snapped branches, roots curled where feet should be, and its faceless head tilted slowly as if studying something fragile. The mark on my chest burned hot. My pulse synced with the entity's presence, like two hearts learning each other. It stepped forward, smooth, silent, fluid, as if gliding through dimensions instead of walking. A voice pressed into my skull. Return. Not spoken, but remembered. Return. The mark spread over my ribs. My vision dimmed at the edges. I felt roots beneath my skin anchoring me in place. I was becoming part of it, part of the forest, part of the old world. But then something inside me snapped. Not fear, not resistance, survival. The ranger's words hit me like lightning. Old things don't cross water. I stumbled backward, breaking the entity's gaze, and ran. Branches clawed my arms, the forest pushing against me, steering me away from the river. But adrenaline surged. The mark on my chest seared, trying to force me to stop, to turn, to surrender. I didn't. I sprinted. The knocking escalated around me. Not one source, but dozens. Knock, 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 knock. Like every tree was calling out. The entity behind me moved without sound, closing the distance with terrifying grace. I saw the river through the trees, a faint silver line. My legs weakened, My lungs burned. The mark screamed inside my mind. But I reached the bank. Behind me, the entity loomed at the tree line. Its antlers scraped the upper branches, sending a shower of needles to the ground. Its faceless head tilted, not angry, almost mournful, as if losing something it believed was already its own. It stepped forward. The roots forming its feet touched the riverbank and stopped. The forest held its breath. I plunged into the river like before. Cold slammed into me, but the moment the water touched my skin, the mark burned away. It felt like sap meeting fire, splitting and curling and fading. Behind me, the entity reached out with one long arm but could not cross. The water glowed faintly where its shadow touched it, steam swirling upward. And then it withdrew, slowly, silently, back into the forest, back into its realm. Watching, always watching, but unable to follow. For now, I washed ashore miles downstream. Again, I was shaking and half-conscious. Search and rescue found me the next morning. Doctors again said it was hypothermia, stress hallucinations, delirium. But the ranger who visited me in the hospital knew better. She looked at my bare chest where the branching mark had been. Her face tightened. "You escaped," she said quietly. "But understand this." She leaned in. "It only lets go once." I asked her what that meant. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. She just shook her head and left. Because some nights when everything is quiet, I swear I hear it again. Knock, knock, knock. Calling me. Patient, ancient, and waiting for the moment I step into the forest again.